What is up, Pitt fans? Welcome to another edition of the PG Pitt Show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. My name is Stephen Thompson. I cover Pitt athletics for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. This is another solo episode for you. We're going to cover some basketball today. Abby Schnabel, my beat partner, is out in Kansas City covering Pitt volleyball in the Final Four, which starts tonight in about, I'm going to say, 4 hours as we live and breathe as I record this right now. So make sure you're checking out all of her great work from Kansas City. I know she is really grinding out there. And as you guys have seen in a couple of our previous videos, playing through a pretty scratchy throat. So we appreciate Abby's efforts out there. And she's doing a lot of great work to keep you guys posted on what the Panthers are doing and potentially cover them through to a national championship. Seems like they have a great chance, as good a chance as anyone in that field remaining to do it. So post-gazette.com, like this video, subscribe to PG Pitt on YouTube. Again, we're sponsored by FanDuel, which is where you can bet Pitt to win the ACC in men's basketball at plus 25,000, which may look like a pretty good value bet maybe later in the season. We'll see. But for right now, long odds for a team that has struggled a little bit. They got back to their winning ways against Binghamton on Wednesday night. My colleagues King Jemison and Paul Zeiss recorded another Pitt basketball video earlier today where they talk more generally about the direction of the program. I encourage you to check that one out. It's a good conversation. But I think here I want to dive into a little bit more granular stuff about the state of the team right now, the actual basketball that they are playing. And, I get it. I can imagine what many of you who follow Pitt basketball are thinking every time you watch a game or tune into one of these videos, and that's that you want that coach fired. And I can empathize with that feeling. But as someone who is paid to show up to the arena every night and try to write something interesting, try to talk about something interesting, I exist in the reality where, or I have to live in the reality where Jeff Capel isn't fired, and he's coaching a basketball team. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that basketball team, and some interesting stuff actually happened over the last couple games in that Binghamton game especially. And that's been the emergence of Kieran Mullen. At one point, really up until the start of November, I would say he was a redshirt candidate. And Pitt was really explicit about that when, he signed with the team, when he arrived on campus. He was a raw prospect, 7-footer, not a highly touted recruit, but Pitt saw something in him just that he needed to develop. So Pitt is excited about his future, but he has earned kind of a field promotion here with Papa Conte going down with an injury. He's sidelined pretty much indefinitely with inflammation in his knee, same knee that he had surgery on during his freshman year that kept him sidelined for all of that season. So no Papa Conte for the foreseeable future, and that means that the front court is really thin. And the thing is, it seems like Mullen has kind of emerged as an option out of desperation, but really showed Pitt some things that could be really encouraging moving forward. So it started in that Villanova game where he played about 9 minutes, which was more than he had played in his previous 3 appearances combined. He played 8 minutes in his first 3 games, and it was really limited showings. But he played 9 minutes against Villanova, and I thought looked really good. And then he follows that up with 17 minutes in a blowout win over Binghamton, and I thought continued to show a lot of really good things. He's a true 7-footer. So you love the size on defense. I think he's got a little bit of mobility to move around. Jeff Capel has really praised his voice, his talk, his ability to call out coverages and talk to his teammates on defense and direct the defense in that sense. But really the most impressive thing, and look, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't show up in the box score. He doesn't have a really high volume of rebounds. I think he grabbed 4 against Binghamton and maybe one against Villanova. So not a ton of stuff that's really, standing out in the box score, but I think he's doing a lot of little things that have, impacted Pitt positively. I think the biggest thing that I notice is his ability to screen and screen well. It's not something that a lot of players on this Pitt team have, especially in the front court. I don't think Cam Corrin or Papa Conte, when he is on the floor, are particularly great screeners. Mullen, I think, really goes up there and set those screens hard. He understands angles, and he knows how to roll off of them. So I think that's been a really positive thing for a team that is for better or worse built around its guards, or needs its guards to really direct the offense and score a ton and play make and everything like that. Mullen makes that a lot easier with his ability to screen, his smarts, knowing where he is on the floor. I think the most impressive, another one of the more impressive things is that he knows where to be on both ends. You would assume a guy who wasn't expected to play a whole lot would be thrust into a situation like this and look a little lost. And that hasn't been my impression of Kieran Mullen really at all. So it's been a pretty positive. It's been a really big development for Pitt, who is thin in the front court, had to rely on Cam Corn to play a ton of minutes. And this is a spot where Mullen can really give them a lift and not only spell Cam Corn, but you saw in the Binghamton game, they tried to use them together, play double big. When you look at some of the metrics, and we talked about this earlier in the season, but Pitt's best defensive lineups and some of its best lineups, period, had Papa Conte and Cam Corrin on the floor together, and it really anchored the defense. Without Deshaun Jackson in there, who was a really fabulous rim protector and defensive rebounder, Pitt was, not as strong, on the defensive end. But they found something a little bit playing the double big lineup, gives them some more size, some more rim protection. We've seen over the course of this season that Pitt guards really struggle to keep the ball in front. They struggle to defend on the perimeter. And so you need as much help on the back end of your defense when that is the case. And, having Papa Conte in there to give you some more size, he's a better shot blocker than Corrin, who's probably closer to a 4 than he is a true 5. Mullen really is a true 5, a true center at 7 foot, and has the potential to be a good rim protector for them. I think has shown a little bit of that so far. In the Binghamton game, the limited minutes that they played with Corrin and Mullen on the floor together were not super productive. I think the defensive rating was about 120, maybe north of that, 125. With Conte and Corrin on the floor, it was something like 73.6, which is incredible. 126 defensive rating is pretty bad. So for the limited possessions, it didn't look great. I would assume that it's not a lineup that they have played a ton of minutes with, even in practice. So probably something that they are going to tool around with, and maybe some more minutes on the floor help make that a little smoother. But in that sense, in the sense that he needs to spell Cam Corrin, who's been one of Pitt's leading scorers, its leading rebounder as well. The fact that he needs some breaks throughout games mean that Mullen should be in the mix a lot more. And it's one of those things, when I think about, okay, I talked about living in the reality where Jeff Capel is not fired, and until I hear something differently, I have to assume that he won't be fired next year. Not that that is not possible, but that is the assumption I operate under right now. You think about who from this team could be a valuable piece moving forward. And Mullen, I think we've only seen him in limited action, but I do think that there is something there where maybe he was more of a long-term project or a bit of an afterthought, honestly, when you thought about this team this season. He has proved over these past couple of games that he can be a really valuable piece for Pitt, and he's a piece that is developing quickly. I think, the leaps that he has made from, you watched him play maybe against Pitt Johnstown or some of the other exhibitions or open practices, and just someone who I think has some potential that really can be unlocked, and some skills that can really fit into what it needs to be competitive moving down the barrel. I think, the defense, his size, if he can translate that into some more consistent rebounding and some more consistent rim protection on the defensive end, that's awesome. And if he can be a good pick and roll partner for some of these guards, that's really all you need from him offensively. He can maybe finish some plays. Don't think you really need to trust him to, post up a ton or create his own shot. He can play off guys, and I think that's really all you need from him at this point. So positive developments from Kieran Mullen. I think some good stuff for Pitt to look forward to moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, Pitt turns around from a blowout win, a 40-point win over Binghamton last night, to a rivalry matchup with Penn State on Sunday at noon in Hershey. I'll be there, boots on the ground, covering that game. Diving into Penn State a little bit, they are, I believe, 8-3 right now. They still do not have a win over a power conference opponent, though. And, Pitt, for all its struggles, at least has one. So the Nittany Lions have lost to Providence by 12. They lost to Indiana by about 41. Yeah, that's 41 points, 113-72. But then they played Michigan State really close at home, 76-72. Were really competitive in that game and could have easily won it. So Penn State does a few things really well. They don't turn the ball over. They're pretty efficient on the offensive end as far as shooting the ball. They're number 6. They're 67th in offensive efficiency from Ken Baum, really built around their guards. It starts with the freshman Kayden Mingo, who's one of the better scorers, I guess, in the Big Ten, and one of the better young freshman guards in the country. So he really drives their offense at 15 points per game, 4.5 assists thereabout. And he also leads the Big Ten in steals at 2.1 per game. But the Nittany Lions, like I said, don't turn the ball over. They have the number 4 turnover rate in all of Division I, according to KenPom. And they also have 5 guys who shoot 40% or better from 3 on at least one attempt a game. So that is one area where Pitt's going to be really challenged. Like I mentioned, the perimeter defense has not been stellar for Pitt this season, and they've acknowledged as much. And I would say that it's been a weakness of Jeff Capel teams going back a few years now. It's something that's been pretty common. So that is one area where Penn State can really exploit this defense. But overall, I mean, like I said, the Nittany Lions haven't beaten a power conference team. They've kind of, had some close calls against some mid or low majors, but for the most part, taking care of business. But on the other hand, the Hofstra and the Quinnipiac losses are really fresh in everyone's minds. But KenPom has this as a 1-point game. They don't have these two teams separated by very much. And I think it's pretty reasonable to expect that the Panthers and the Nittany Lions will play a close game, even if this is more of a semi-home game for Penn State than it is, a true road game for Pitt. I expect this game to be competitive. We'll see what Mullen's able to give. I think if he's able to give the Panthers some more rim protection, that could be really big. That helps the Panthers extend their defense a little bit, makes it a little easier to cover some of those really outstanding shooters that Penn State has. But foul trouble was a problem for Pitt against Binghamton, who does draw a ton of fouls, but still something that they need to clean up. And, if the Panthers get into foul trouble, I could predict this game maybe getting a little ugly and maybe getting a little bit out of hand. I'm less worried about the Pitt offense. Honestly, I think they generate a lot of good looks, and then shooters just have to knock them down. But Penn State is not a particularly stellar defense at all. I'm pulling up their KenPom page again right now. They're 202nd in defensive efficiency. They allow teams to shoot a bunch of free throws. They don't block a lot of shots. They don't have a ton of rim protection. They allow teams to shoot really well from 3-point range and from 2, quite honestly. So there are opportunities for Pitt, who shot the 3 really effectively against Binghamton, to kind of carry over some of that shooting magic into the next game. That said, the last time we saw Pitt win a major beat a high major team, it was that Ohio State game, and they needed a buzzer beater to do it. I think until we see some more consistent kind of winning basketball from Pitt, I have a hard time predicting that they, especially going into a de facto road game, that they will be able to pull out a win. So, if you're asking me for a game prediction, I do think that Penn State is going to be able to pull out the win here. But I think it'll be a competitive game. Pitt will be in it, through most of the second half. And as long as they can stay out of foul trouble, I do like their chances of pulling out a win and maybe righting the ship a little bit before they have to go down to Miami for the ACC opener on December 30th. That's all I've got for this video, but thank you all for tuning in. Make sure, like I said, you're following all of Abby's coverage on this YouTube channel. Make sure you like PG Pitt and subscribe to the channel. Then follow all of our written work at post-gazette.com. I'll obviously have more from Hershey from that Penn State game as well. And thank you all for tuning into this video. We will see you next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.